Edgar Cayce claimed after death Hitler did not disappear. His soul is still in a trap. Millions of screams surround him, burning him from the inside. No sleep, no exit, only an eternity of pain. Now imagine, this is not someone else. This is you. You close your eyes forever. The last breath. Silence. The body becomes cold and alien. But death is not the end. It is the beginning, and immediately, screams, millions. They cut your consciousness into pieces. You want to scream, but your voice drowns in this ocean. And suddenly realization comes. These are not someone else's screams. These are your victims, their fear, their pain, their death. Now this is your eternity. Edgar Cayce said, "This is how those who lived in evil meet death. Those who killed for power, who betrayed for profit, who tortured for pleasure. The souls of such people do not go into the light. They are met by a nightmare, a place without time, without sleep, without exit, only the echo of suffering." You think this is hell? Cayce claimed. Worse. Hell can at least be imagined. But here, an eternal loop. You hear everything you caused to others, and the more pain, the louder your eternity. Even dictators and murderers did not escape this fate. Their souls are bound by the screams of millions. The voices do not fall silent for a single second. They accuse, they pierce consciousness so that it is impossible to hide. But Cayce also said something more frightening. Such souls crave to return, to find a new body, sometimes to repeat evil, sometimes to go through the circle of pain again. That is why history is full of blood. Evil does not die with a person. It waits in emptiness and reaches back to the living. You think it disappears. No. It is born in a child who carries a strange darkness. Cayce warned, every murderer will one day hear all his crimes as if they were happening to him himself. No one will escape from this. Now imagine that this is not someone else, but you. You lived a life in evil. You close your eyes and fall into darkness. And there is no end, only your actions. Every betrayal, every pain, every scream, everything returns, everything burns you from within. Cayce said, this is not the judgment of God. This is the judgment of yourself, an absolute mirror. The soul sees everything, with no right to turn away, and the scariest thing, such souls can be born again, in bodies craving power, in people bringing destruction. Have you met people whose eyes are empty? They smile, they speak correctly, but coldness emanates from them. Cayce hinted, these are the very souls, stuck in an eternity of pain. The main question, can such a soul be cleansed? Cayce said, yes, but the price is monstrous. Lives full of suffering, trials that break, incarnations where evil returns to you until you learn compassion. Cayce claimed, atonement begins with small steps, a new birth full of pain, illnesses, losses, suffering. But it is precisely through this that the soul learns to feel another's pain. Every day, an exam, every choice, a chance. Answered with love, a step forward. Chose darkness, a step back. He saw souls that managed, former torturers who became saviors, traitors who became faithful, murderers who dedicated new lives to healing. They knew pain, and therefore could understand another's. It was here that the secret lay. The real law is not punishment, but reflection, and the possibility to change. Every soul gets a chance always, even the darkest figures of history, even Hitler. Their souls may suffer for centuries, but one day find the light, and if so, then we are not doomed. You lied, betrayed, caused pain. There is still a chance, but it requires living through another's pain and repenting. Cayce said, there is no eternal curse. There is only eternal choice. Every word, every thought, every action is a brick in the wall of your eternity. Tomorrow you will make a choice again. What do you want to hear in your eternity? Screams or gratitude? Maybe it is precisely for this that we are here, so that souls learn to love, so that even the darkest find the way back. Cayce believed, one day humanity will learn to see souls even before the darkness breaks through. Then evil will stop repeating. But until this happens, we stand every day before a choice, and even a small act of goodness can change everything. And here is the main question. When your last moment comes, what will meet your soul? Screams or light? The decision is only yours. Do you think death is the end? Cayce said, no. It is the beginning of the real judgment, but not an external one, not God's judgment, an inner one, the judgment of yourself. Imagine, a man lived by lies, betrayed, broke destinies for profit. He dies, and he thinks everything is over. But instead of peace, he falls into emptiness. And in this emptiness there is nothing, except his own voice. Every word spoken with malice repeats millions of times. Every lie sounds again and again. Every betrayal, every promise with which he deceived. No pauses, no sleep, only his own darkness. Do you think this is not scary? Try to imagine that your worst deed becomes your eternity. Not someone else's hell, but yours, Cayce claimed. This is how souls live, not only of murderers. This is how the souls of traitors live, the souls of liars, the souls of those who lived for gain and pleasure, not thinking about another's pain. You think a sin can be small? Cayce said. There is no small sin. There is only a trace, and this trace remains forever. He saw souls stuck in illusions. In life, a person craved power. After death, his soul again builds palaces, sits on a throne, sees crowds of worshippers. But suddenly everything collapses, the walls fall, the throne disappears, and the soul is again in emptiness, again in loneliness. This cycle repeats endlessly. Built, lost, built, lost. A hell of one's own fantasies, Cayce said. This is how the souls of politicians who betrayed their people suffer, the souls of businessmen who profited from others' blood, the souls of fathers who tormented their families. Their hell is loss, loss again and again. But there is something even more frightening. The soul does not just see, it feels. It experiences everything it once caused to others. Did you humiliate someone? After death, your soul will feel humiliation. Did you betray? You will experience betrayal again and again. Did you steal bread from the hungry? Your soul will know hunger. And this is not the punishment of God. Cayce said, this is a natural law, the law of reflection. Everything returns, always. He claimed, a soul can be stuck in this law for hundreds of lives. A person is born again and again, and each time he is awaited by suffering, illnesses, losses, misfortunes. None of this is accidental. These are mirrors. Cayce said, if you caused pain, you will feel pain. If you destroyed, destruction will come to you. If you took, things will be taken from you, and no prayer will cancel this. But he added, every soul has a choice. Even in hell one can seek light. Even in suffering one can change the path. And here is the creepy detail. Cayce saw souls that do not want to be cleansed. They like darkness. They like power. They return to the world again to continue destroying. And with each time their souls become heavier, darker. And in the end they face dissolution. Dissolution is not rest. It is disappearance. Personality is erased. The soul ceases to exist. Imagine, you lived hundreds of lives, millions of years, and in the end, emptiness. You are no longer you. You are nothing. Cayce said, this is real death, not of the body, of the soul. He warned, no one will escape the law of reflection, neither murderer, nor tyrant, nor traitor, nor the one who once lied straight to a child's face. Everything will return. Have you ever met a person around whom it becomes cold? He may smile, speak correctly, But you feel anxiety, as if there is no life in him. Cayce hinted, "This may be a soul that has gone through too much darkness. It is still here. It is not yet cleansed. And here is the main hook." Cayce said, "One day people will learn to see such souls, not with their eyes, but with an inner feeling. And then no one will be able to hide their darkness behind a mask. But until that time, we will have to live beside them, work beside them, love them, sometimes even be born in the same family. Think. If this is true, then how much pain still awaits us before we learn to recognize these souls?" Cayce said, "Even the darkest soul can change its path. Even the one that drowned in the screams of eternity. Even the one that lived hundreds of lives in evil. But this is not an easy way out. It is not a prayer on your knees at the last moment. It is a long and painful path. Imagine, the soul of a traitor lives through betrayal. It feels it as if it is happening to it again and again, until weariness is born inside, and with it, the understanding, "I do not want this anymore. I cannot go on like this." And it is in this moment that the path to cleansing begins. Cayce claimed, atonement always begins with small steps. The soul receives a new birth. But this life becomes hard. Illnesses, losses, shattered hopes, pain. But precisely in this pain, the soul begins to learn. For the first time, it feels another's suffering as if it were its own. It learns compassion. Every day becomes an exam, every trial an opportunity. If the soul answers with love rather than hatred, it takes a step forward. If it chooses darkness, a step back. The circle again, the loop of hell again. Cayce said, "There are souls that go through dozens of incarnations before they sincerely regret what they have done for the first time. But as soon as this happens, the space around them changes. Instead of screams, they begin to hear silence, and in this silence, a faint light is born, a barely noticeable spark. But it is precisely this that becomes the beginning of a new road. Can you imagine, after centuries of pain, to see a glimmer of hope for the first time?" Cayce claimed, "Even the soul of a murderer is capable one day of becoming a healer. Even the soul of a tyrant may be born in a body that will save others. But the price is enormous. To atone for millions of lives, one must live through millions of sufferings. To break out of the loop, one must pass through trials that break the bones of the soul. And yet the chance exists." It was this that gave Cayce hope. He said, "There is no eternal curse. There is only eternal choice. Each soul chooses for itself, eternal suffering or the path of cleansing. Imagine a person who once was an executioner. In a new life, he is born in the body of a weak, sick child. His life is short and full of pain. But he learns compassion. His soul takes a step. Or imagine a traitor who now himself finds himself betrayed by everyone. His heart is torn by loneliness. But if he chooses not to become embittered, but to accept the pain and understand it, he takes another step. Thus, step by step, the darkness begins to melt." Cayce described souls that succeeded. He saw former tormentors who became saviors, former traitors who became faithful to the end, former murderers who dedicated their new lives to healing. They knew pain, and therefore they could truly understand another's. And here the main secret is hidden. Humanity is frightened by hell, frightened by judgment. But Cayce said, the real law is not punishment, but reflection, and the possibility to change. Every soul gets a chance, always. But the question remains, when? After one life? After 10? After 1,000? Cayce said, even the soul of Hitler is not doomed forever. Even it can walk the path of cleansing. But for this, it faces centuries of torment, centuries of pain, centuries of trials that break the mind. And if this is so, then no one is lost, not a single person. And if even the darkest souls are one day able to return to the light, then you and I are not doomed either. You lied, betrayed, caused pain? Cayce said, "There is still a chance. But for this you must live through another's pain, let it pass through you, not turn away but accept. And then a new life begins. Difficult, full of trials, but it is precisely the one that leads to cleansing. Think. Maybe it is precisely for this that we are all here, not for power, not for money, but so that our souls learn to love." Cayce said, "The most terrible trial of the soul is not torment and not pain. The most terrible is the truth, not the one we tell ourselves in life, not excuses, not illusions, but the truth that remains when the body disappears. And here it is, before every soul. Imagine, you lived a life full of small evil. You did not kill millions, but you betrayed friends. You broke hearts. You laughed at another's weakness. You passed by pain when you could help, and then death. And before you a mirror opens. But in this mirror, not a saint, not a hero. There are your words, your actions, your darkness, and you understand, there is nowhere to hide." Cayce claimed, "It is precisely at this moment that the soul has its first chance, a chance to repent, not with words, not with excuses, but with living through. Many souls run, they choose illusions, they build palaces in emptiness, they play the role of the righteous again, but everything collapses. Illusion does not save, only acknowledgement, only repentance, and when this happens, everything changes." Cayce described, "Above the soul that decided to repent, a light appears, very weak, almost invisible, but it is the light of hope. From this moment, a new path begins. The soul is born again. Its life is hard, its path full of trials. It encounters the pain it itself once caused to others. But now this is not just punishment, this is opportunity. Imagine the soul of a traitor who is born a person betrayed by everyone. If it does not harden, if it accepts pain and learns compassion, it takes a step forward. Thus, step by step, the darkness dissolves." Cayce said, "The darkest souls go through thousands of lives before they reach the light. But not one soul is doomed forever, even the soul of Hitler, even the soul of the most cruel tyrant, even the soul of the one who broke the innocent. Each receives a chance, and here, the main secret. Humanity fears hell, fears judgment. But the real law is not punishment. It is the possibility to change. Every soul can choose eternal suffering or the path to the light. And this choice begins here. Now." Cayce said, "Every word, every thought, every action is a brick in the wall of your eternity. You get angry at a loved one, you betray for profit, you turn away from another's pain. All this does not disappear. It waits for you there. Imagine, one day you will close your eyes, and in eternity music will sound. But it will not be the music of the heavens. It will be your own words, your actions. What do you want to hear for millions of years? Screams or gratitude? Maybe it is precisely for this that we are all here, so that our souls learn to love, so that even the darkest of us find the way back." Cayce believed, one day humanity will learn to recognize souls even before darkness breaks out, and then evil will stop repeating. Imagine a world where a child with a heavy soul is seen immediately, where he is taught love from the first years, where he is given a chance to correct his path, not to hide darkness. Cayce claimed, "The future depends not on weapons, not on money, not on power. It depends on our ability to recognize souls." And now, the main question for you. You are watching this and you think, this is all about murderers, about tyrants, about Hitler, but not about me. But what if the truth is that it concerns everyone? Every one of your words returns. Every thought has weight. Every action becomes part of your eternity. Tomorrow you will make a choice again. You will hurt someone again. Or on the contrary, you will help. What do you want to hear in your eternity? Screams or light? Imagine, the last moment has come. You take a breath, and suddenly you realize this is not breathing. This is an echo. The echo of your actions. Cayce said, "In death there is no peace, there is truth. And this truth is always sharp as a blade. You see everything, every lie, every betrayal, every humiliation with which you wounded others. You feel every tear you caused. You want to close your eyes, but the eyes of the soul do not close. You want to forget, but the soul does not forget." Cayce claimed, no one will escape reflection. It waits for everyone. The murderer, the tyrant, the one who once walked past another's pain. It is a mirror you cannot hide from. And here is the main question. What will you see in it? Screams or light? Cayce said, "Every day we lay bricks in the wall of our eternity. With words, with thought, with action, even with silence. You may think it is a trifle, but eternity is built from trifles." He warned, "Even the smallest shadow will one day become a mountain if you do not free yourself from it in life. You think you have time, maybe. But one day it will be gone, and then what you have been building will collapse upon you. Think. Every time you choose malice instead of compassion, you choose an eternity of pain. Every time you turn away from another's trouble, you write a new scream into your destiny. Every time you betray yourself. But you have a choice." Cayce said, "Fate is not carved in stone. Even the darkest soul can choose the light. This choice is not there beyond the edge, it is here, now. Imagine, tomorrow you wake up and next to you is a person who needs help. You can walk past, or you can reach out your hand. And in this moment, it is not his fate that is decided. It is yours. Maybe it is for this that we are all here, not for power, not for money, but in order to learn to love. And here is the last question that Cayce left for each of us. When your last moment comes, what will be waiting for your soul? Screams or light? The decision is only yours.